Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order now at 7 p.m. and welcome you all to the regular meeting and public hearing of the Hsdsb School Board, August 22nd, 2017.
Kathleen Hsdsb.
Here.
Jason Cipriano.
Here.
Caitlin Carnell.
Here.
James Sweeney.
Here.
Karen Masenka.
Here.
Also seated at the board table is Assistant Superintendent Dr. Roxanne Wilson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have two sets of minutes to approve. Please take a look at them. Do you have any additions, corrections?
Excuse me, thank you.
I'm all set.
Have a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
So moved?
I'll second.
All in favor? Unanimous, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any public comments?
There were no requests for public comments.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to open the public hearing, and we're going to have a discussion led by Mr. Collins.
Good evening. I'll try to speak over the music from next door here. I have a letter here from Katie Toscano to accompany a check that we have locked up at school. And it is a check for $15,000. And the letter from Katie Toscano says, Dear Mr. Dillard Collins, please accept and use this donation of $15,000 to purchase or spend on anything that you feel the children of Hsdsb Central School would benefit from. Dillard, I know that these funds will allow you to do a little something extra for the children of HCS. Part of my conversation with her is, first of all, this was when we were saying thank you for her big donation a year ago, and we have our beautiful new shade structure in place at the Central School, and the conversation was, we'd like to do something more for the children on the playground. So what I've been doing is I've been searching around to figure out some of the ideas. The kids asked for an ice cream machine and a bubbler and other fun things out there. But the swings at the Central School playground have actually started to age. Some of you that have followed their history know that they've moved around a few times. So it's time to consider replacing them before they become old. I wouldn't call them unsafe, but I would say it is time to replace them. I spoke to a company called O'Brien and Sons, and they are a representative of the company called Landscape Structures. That is the same company that did a significant number of the nicer parts of the structures on the Central School playground. I think they did some of the structures at the middle school playground. And they gave me a bid that we could easily spend the entire $15,000 and replace almost all of the swings at the Central School. Just to give you an idea what the difference is from the old ones to the new ones. The new ones have a single post that comes up from the ground, so you don't have that V at the end. So it's one less tripping hazard for children, and it's also a much beefier structure. And it's also that higher quality that you see on the rest of the playground. Their quote that they sent to me, we could replace 8 of the swings for just a little bit under $10,000. Their number is $9,700. We actually have 14 swings, so this would get, probably by the time I finish talking to them, I could get the whole thing done. And this is an installed price. That means purchase, they send someone in, an installation that has children playing on swings and climbing needs to be installed by their people, certified and all that other stuff. So my recommendation is that we accept that and move forward with replacing the swings on the playground. That's it.
Anyone have any questions?
Okay, so it replaces 8 of the swings?
That's what the estimate said, but since that was a little bit under 10,000 and I have 15 to play with here, I'm going to see if I can get at least a dozen, if not more. I'll just do what we do around here, which is we got this much, I'll ask for a little bit more. Use your money well.
No, I think it is money used well. I remember commenting over a year ago that the swings needed to be replaced.
Oh, honestly, I don't remember that, but okay.
Yeah, it's in the minutes somewhere.
I remember.
Okay.
That they needed to be replaced. And it's also in keeping with Katie's wishes that the money be used for something that all the children can benefit from. So, thank you, and I'd like to, I think we have to have a motion to approve this. Caitlin?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Thank you.
I'll be in touch with Katie tomorrow to let her know what we're going to do. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to close the portion of the public hearing and move on to administrative reports and highlights. I know, I don't mean to catch you off guard, but when I was looking at these, I was wondering if both Mr. Collins and Ms. Denola, could you just please go up and just tell us some of the highlights of what's happening, you know, the open house and some important dates for the beginning of the year that is important for parents to know?
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Our open house is on Monday, August 28th, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Parents have been notified. It's been on the website. I sent out a power scheduler, and we are setting up informational booths in the cafeteria for any of our area organizations who would like to share the things that are offered in this wonderful town. And we are very excited and ready for our students to come back. The excitement is starting to build. And I wanted you to know that we had a hawk join our school very early today. We had the most exciting experience. I got a call from our animal rescue officer, and at 5 o'clock, she and this raptor rehabilitator had a red-tailed hawk that they found. It was just a little baby back in the springtime, and she rehabilitated this animal that was practically near death. And today was the day that she wanted to let it go. And oh my goodness, there were like 30 people. The word went out, people with these huge cameras, and she let this red-tailed hawk go. I have shivers. And Maura, our animal control officer, took the little hood off of its face, and we all lined up and let the hawk go, and it just swirled around the soccer field and went high into the pine trees. It was just really beautiful. And she had a barred owl who was hit by a car a month ago, I believe, and she brought that one back to health, and we let the owl go as well. The owl went that way, and the hawk went that way. So it was really a lot of fun. We've got great pictures, and I'll send them to you if you're interested in seeing them. So the Hawks, go Hawks. We're off to a strong start. Our buildings are in good shape. We have worked very hard. All of us have rolled up our sleeves. All of us have done things we're not normally involved in, but it's been a great opportunity to personally see our buildings shine and be renovated. Our building at the middle school we're ready. We're ready to begin. I believe Dr. Wilson is going to speak a little bit about Camp Invention or the summer camps, or would you like me to just do the highlights?
You go ahead.
We had robotics camp, we had Minecraft, we had Camp Invention, which was part of the Inventors Hall of Fame for the first time this year. We had 26 students involved under the guidance of Mrs. Mayu, Mr. Nason, and Mrs. Griffin. The students worked very hard on STEM projects, robotics, building, blowing things up. They had quite a lot of fun with it. They were taking risks as entrepreneurs and inventors of the future. Our fall sports, we start strong August 30th. Everything's out on the website and has already been mailed home to parents. Students should be ready to go. Bring their cleats, bring their sneakers for most of our fall sports. And as I had said to you before, Mr. Robbins had been honored as New Hampshire Band Directors Association Band Director of the Year, and he received his award this summer, and Mrs. Stevenson and Mr. Kevin Fisher went up to Plymouth State University to be there to support him on that. As I said, our facilities, we are updating. Our playground is almost finished. We had a few other things we needed to add to it to make it handicapped accessible. And under the help of Mr. Tom Gary, he's been outstanding. I can't tell you, that's been an incredible help to us. He's an expert in his field. I'm just very blessed to have had him helping us throughout this summer. One of the things that is a little bit different about Hampstead Middle School going forward is the use of backpacks. The students in the past few years have gotten heavier and heavier backpacks, where we had a Navy SEAL in the springtime come through and pick up a backpack and said, "This is about 42 pounds." And we put it on the scale, it was 42 pounds. So the children are putting everything that is in their locker on their backpacks instead of organizing their things accordingly. Teachers, it's a tripping hazard in the classrooms. Teachers trip over them. Their back health is an issue. So we are going to have them use their lockers. They may use their backpacks to school, put their things in their lockers, take out what they need, and use a string backpack or a small tote to organize as they go. They have plenty of time to get to their lockers throughout the day. But their spinal health and back health and just organizational skills will be greatly enhanced by this new procedure. That is, the teachers are behind it 100%, as well as the American Medical Association. So that I sent that out to the parents back in June, and the students to be aware of that coming in on August 30th. You will hear some other things later on with Detective Conway.
And just enrollment, that's holding steady, the 416, is that a sound number?
Yes, Mrs. Yasenka, I believe we have, I met with one parent yesterday. We probably have 3 or 4 more, if not more, that might be joining us.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Dr. Wilson, do you recall the Hsdsb projection for middle school?
I don't recall it.
Mr. Collins?
I won't read the whole report, so you've got it, but I just want to point out a few real significant pieces. As she said, the open house is next Monday in the afternoon. We intentionally have it from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock at Central School and 5 to 7 for middle school, so parents that are bouncing between the two schools get a chance to do a lot of bouncing that afternoon and see both of our schools. There was a big mailing that went out to families last week. Just urge parents, if they didn't get some of those mailings, just to contact us in the office, and we'll try to make sure that they got what they need. And there's also emails going out with stuff. As school starts on August the 30th, we're doing one thing slightly different this year. All preschool and kindergarten children are asked to come in with their parents for a short meeting. It's going to take roughly an hour. So the parents will meet with the teacher, and the children will go play with their classmates. So this is sort of our way of easing them back into their school year. This was a piece of feedback that we got from the teachers last year. We've been doing it for half-day K and preschool for a number of years, but the full-day K said we really need to give them that same start. I wanted to highlight a couple of very important things that we're working on at the Central School. The roofing project is getting close to completion, and we also are getting close to completion of that bathroom renovation, which was the changing room. I have to put out a word of thanks. Tom Geary is wonderful. He's our new gentleman working out of the SAU. He's done an awful lot of helping us through this summer without a facilities director. He's been right on top of these pieces. He knows how to talk to contractors in a very gentle yet persuasive way. I'll just say that. But I've enjoyed working with him as the pieces have come together this summer. Another piece that's been going on is we are required to create an emergency operations procedure. It's a new law. We are working feverishly all summer on this. Tom's also been very useful. He has a great background in working in schools down in Haverhill, so he's been very useful with us. I know both principals and assistant principals have been talking a lot, and we even checked in with our police department on some stuff. And I did put a rather lengthy statement in there about the classroom moves at the Central School. I can't emphasize enough that, just to quote you, you were asking me, was this an easy move this summer? The answer is no. It was not an easy move this summer. The end result is we have got it done. We've moved the things around. You can see what's what. We do have a class size that's going to be a little bit more than we would like to see, but we'll make it work. That is with grade 3, and I have let the families know that. We are working on that, and the teachers know that as well. So we got all of our Wheaties in, we're ready to go. I know you were asking for an update on the enrollment, so I did pull it up and look at it this afternoon. The numbers have grown a little bit since what I gave you a week ago. We were projected to have a total of 444 students, according to Hsdsb a year ago. We have right now 458 that we know will definitely be there starting school next week. I have 18 other names that I'm at various stages working with. I think realistically at least half, if not 2/3 of them will be there, which suggests that we will easily be in the 460s by the time we open school, which means we're going to have an enrollment about 20 more than a year ago with one less classroom.
Right.
I mean, I want to capture that statement right there, but it will work. We've got it mapped out all the way through, so if you want the specific numbers, I mean, 458, if everybody shows up, we'd be up in the 476. I don't think we'll get there, but people still are calling.
Yeah.
But thank you.
All right, thank you.
I just want to point out to the other board members, you know, even at that projection of 475, 476, that's 7% higher than the Hsdsb projection from a year ago when we, you know, again, a year out, we generally expect Hsdsb to be highly accurate. We're up potentially up 7% higher than that. And this goes to the discussion that we've had, you know, particularly as it pertains to other projects that the board has worked on, that there's a pervasive narrative that the school is shrinking. And I keep saying every time these numbers come up, it is not. You know, and before, back in deliberative, we were talking about maybe a 1% increase. That was, and we said that was kind of flat, 1% plus or minus 1% is generally, we could probably consider that flat. 7%, I mean 7% more than was expected. And that's significant. I don't think we can ignore that. So.
Yeah, thank you.
I have to say, it's not one grade level too. It's all over.
Yeah, every grade level.
Every
is higher
single
than
grade
the-
level except for grade 1 hit that number. And grade 1 is simply just a couple kids underneath. So
Yeah.
it's all over. It's not just one pocket of kids, so thank you.
It would also be interesting to note how many of those are attributed to empty nesters selling their homes because it's been such a good market, and then families coming in, because I think we've also seen that increase this year as well.
Without being scientific about it, I have to say, there's a lot of those that, oh yeah, we bought the house, and of course I have 2 secretaries in the office, know where everybody lives, and said, oh yeah, they bought the house, yeah, they've retired and they've moved on, so yes.
It's true. Thank you. Moving on to current business.
You wanted to have Dr. Dancy speak about school mint?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Because it's something new this year also. So I think it'd be worth it if you can go through it,
Certainly.
especially so parents can get
Sure.
a feel for it, know what to expect.
I just wanted to preface it with last year, whenever one of our middle school secretaries decided to retire, one of the things that she did was take all of the paper forms and spend 3 months entering all that data into PowerSchool. And we chose not to replace that position. We put into the budget the purchase of an online form program that we have. And the program that we chose was School Mint. And so School Mint manages all of the forms that you would normally fill out on paper. Instead, they're being done online. Some of the advantages to this is that a parent who has 3 children, their information carries over from form to form to form so that they don't have to do all that writing. All of the signatures come in. This is all personalized to an account that we have set up through PowerSchool that guarantees their privacy, that's very individual. And I've had many secretaries and administrators going over all of this summer to make sure that it's going to the right people. And one of the beauties of this is that it will move straight into PowerSchool. That's the whole idea of this, is all this information from these fields translates straight into PowerSchool, reducing the need of someone to sit there and physically type in all of this information. And we can utilize this throughout the year as an update for information as well. Currently, yesterday, I sent out 850 invitations to people to set up their accounts. As of right now, I have 72 completed form packets, and there are another 150 people who have actually gotten in and set their passwords, and they're in the process of filling out their forms. When the first one came through, I was monitoring it and watching it, and she did it in about 10 minutes. And I called her immediately and asked her, how did it go? And she said, it was easy. It was okay. It was like filling out the paper, but I was done really quick. So I was very pleased to hear that. I've been monitoring I am the customer service representative, so to speak, for the district on this. So I've been monitoring the emails continually, helping people. If the notification didn't get to them, I resend the notification so that they're getting it pretty quickly. So we look forward to, before the beginning of school, having almost all of our forms filled out and be ready to be translated into PowerSchool using this tool.
Question. So when a parent's filling them out, if you have one child, and I don't know, you say you have 6 forms,
Correct.
parent has to put the same information, though, on all 6 forms, like parent, phone number, contact information. But you're saying, though, that if you have 2 or 3 children, you don't have to do that on each of their forms?
And you don't even have to do that in one child's forms, because the information that's already pre-programmed through PowerSchool that we pulled out from PowerSchool enters that information, the parents' names, their addresses, their phone numbers, and if they need to update it, they can do that. But the family data sheet, the emergency contact sheet is already pre-populated with most of that information, and most of the time, it looks like you've already gone through it. You're just reviewing the information and making changes as necessary. What did it take you, maybe 10, 15 minutes?
Not all the way done.
Okay.
Because I ran out of time, but it was probably 7 minutes.
Right.
And it did,
Yeah.
information on different forms, my information just was automatically there, and I just had to check if it was correct.
Okay. And where's the information stored when it comes back to you? Where is it?
Right now, it's in schoolmint.com. We have an account with schoolmint.com, and then it will come back into PowerSchool.
Okay.
That's all it is. It's our direct link into PowerSchool.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Now I can move on to current business. Sandy Hodkins, going to review with us some changes occurring this school year with the bus schedule.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me here tonight. Just want to highlight some of the things that I've been doing over the summer that affects our Hampstead buses. First of all, our specialized busing, our mini buses, are now under the Durham School Services. They have been under them for over a year, but they did not change any of their names. All of our buses still said provider. So you will see our buses probably saying Durham School Services or DSS. So that's something to watch for this year. We don't have a new contract or anything. It's all under the same business. And so I've been very busy this year. Hampstead bus routing has been revamped totally, because I looked at everything. It took me the whole month of July and into August to make sure that we had better routing, better times, good distribution of our students on the buses. So I'll just kind of go highlight a few of the things for each of the schools. So Pinkerton has 7 buses still running for Pinkerton. What I have done is change some of the stops. We have also took one Pinkerton bus that will not have a middle school run, and because it's a bus that's in East Hampstead and seems to not be able to get to the middle school in a good time. So basically, the other buses that were coming late from Pinkerton, I have changed the routing so that they all have shorter routes. So the times that they should hopefully arrive to the middle school in the afternoon will not be later than 3 o'clock. So I think that's an improvement. I have balanced out the numbers on those buses as well. We actually had, some buses only had 30 and some had 65. So right now, our average counts on the Pinkerton buses, the highest one has 53. So that's not bad for Pinkerton students, because a bus holds 52 passengers with 2 per seat. So our Pinkerton kids, knowing that they're more like adult size than children's size, so that should work out fairly well. And my numbers for Pinkerton do not include seniors. I never include seniors when I do high school routes, but I also know that Pinkerton has opened up some parking for juniors, so it's possible our numbers might be lower. For the Hampstead Middle School, so we have 8 buses that will service the Hampstead Middle School. As I said, I did take away 1. And the reason was that when I looked at the counts again, we had 1 bus that had 25, 39, 40, and we had some that were over 65. So what I did was balance those numbers out between the 8 buses. I also changed some of the bus routes and their numbers. So bus 8 is now H4, H9 is H5, H5 is H8, H4 is H9. So it was really only 4 buses that had an effect on it. And the reason for that is, again, I went through the times, where they were going, what they were doing, when they were arriving, and put them in conjunction with where they needed to be at the middle school. So that helped a lot with, even just a few minutes helps a lot. Okay. And also, just to let you know, with the plan with the only having 8 buses, in the morning, if for some reason the bus company cannot fill in a route, if a driver calls in sick at the last minute or whatever, that will give that extra, it's not extra bus, but the bus that doesn't have a middle school route in the morning would be able to cover that middle school route in a minute's notice, so that no message would have to go out to parents, there would be no change in their time or anything, okay? It doesn't work for the afternoon, but I think we have more of an issue in the morning when parents need to get to work on time, and they're waiting out there at the stops more than 15, 20 minutes. So there is a new backup plan for the afternoon, just in case, and that still works out very well. It's a lot different than last year's, and I plan to post the backup plans on the website so parents can see exactly which bus will be picking them up. Okay. For Central School, we are utilizing all 9 buses for the Hampstead Central. We want to get those kiddos home as quickly as we can. I have also made changes just to 2 routes. H9 is now H8 and H8 is H9. The times work out better with the whole system. I have also spread the counts out. Our average ridership for our Central School kiddos are about 60 per bus. Some are less, and nobody's over 60, 62, 64. So those have been spread out as well. First Student has drivers for every route in Hampstead. Our H2 driver has left, but a new one will be starting. Also, First Student has 2 extra drivers that are waiting for a route. So in the meantime, while they're waiting, they will be going into the office in the morning at 6 a.m. And they're going to wait. If somebody calls in at the last minute, we know that one of them will go out on a route, so it'll be covered. So they're working very hard. Also, they still have two more drivers in training. So until they get a route, they'll also be utilized as sports charter drivers, so that they will help with the sports, which is a big thing. Let's see. I think I've pretty much covered it. I am going to have our drivers make sure they give us their counts and their times. Probably not the first week because they're learning their route and learning who their kids are. So when I have that data, I'll be happy to share that with you at the next meeting. That's pretty much it.
Thank you for all of this detailed explanation and all of the time and effort that you put into this. On the central school route list, bus 1 has 44 stops, and it's a lot higher than the next highest, which is 33 for bus 7. Can you talk about why there's 44 stops for that bus?
That bus in particular for Central School does Main Street, which we pretty much don't have group stops for because it's a main street. I route for some students, but sometimes they're not at those stops, so I really won't know. It all depends on that area. Even though it only, he has 62 kids, they don't all ride. That bus also goes down to Conley's Grove, so it goes off that way. I try to make group stops as much as I could, but
It's difficult on Main.
when it's kindergarten and first graders, and
Right.
safety comes first.
Or will the bus drivers, or will anybody be driving the routes to make sure that the stops are in safe areas?
Yep, the drivers have their first meeting tomorrow. They are in there at 9, and I believe they're there till noontime. And then they get their routes, and they go out and dry run them to make sure that everything looks good, because second pair of eyes is always better. Sometimes I don't catch things, so, yep, they're going to dry run them. They always do.
Okay, and they'll report back if there's any concerns, like if somebody installed a high fence on their property, or if bushes are overgrown,
Yep.
whatnot. Okay. All right,
They're my eyes and ears out there.
excellent, thank you.
Go ahead.
Just a couple of things real quick. Sandy, thanks for the work on this and the update. It's good to hear that it sounds like we've got some backup drivers this year, and let's hope that holds. I was going to mention to my fellow board members, I'm not sure if you saw it, but earlier this week, Northwood, which is SAU 44 over by Rochester and Somersworth, announced that they would not be providing bus services for their students this year because they can't find enough bus drivers. So the shortage of bus drivers is consistent in some areas, and so that was in the news earlier this week. But it sounds like we've got a couple of extras, and hopefully that pans out. And so I just wanted to bring that up.
Jason, do you know if SAU 44 owns their own bus
They do.
company? They do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they manage it themselves.
I don't know, my children never rode the bus, and so I'm not that familiar with it, but 44 stops in like 37 minutes? Really?
It sounds like a lot, but it's...
No, it doesn't sound like a lot. It is a lot.
It is a lot, but there's no changes from his route from last year. I only added one extra development where there's 2 stops. I actually even took some stops away on some of the routes, and I know I'm going to get called from parents, but I'm trying to combine them. All I can do is wait and see what he does. If he can't make the times or something, then I will
And so
make adjustments.
that stop with the 44 stops, that last child is supposed to be let off at 4:10.
And that is in the College Grove area. Everyone else, that takes 15 minutes to get down there.
Okay, so can I ask that somebody, I can ask Roxanne, maybe, Dr. Wilson, to monitor this for the next, say, 8 weeks carefully and see what time the children are actually being dropped off?
We already do that. No, we actually monitor when the last bus finishes and when they leave the school. So we'll be able to give you a report on that.
Okay, so then, Dr. Wilson, can I ask that you have Sandy come back and report back to us sometime in October?
Yes, and we were going to do that as well. She does monitoring as well. We also do it on our end through Central School, always trying to figure out what those times are. So we will have that report.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
Just one last thing.
Yeah.
The two standby drivers at, not provider, first student, those are first students drivers, so they could be called into the Timberlane district
They
or
could
wherever
be.
else first student has. So when it comes time for fall sports and spring sports, because those seem to be the two that really interfere with the bus routes, if those drivers are not available to prevent the bus backup, can other arrangements be made with other service providers to handle the sports?
First student has already put all of their sports on their calendar, and they have just charter drivers too. But those two that I mentioned were just, they wanted routes. I'm not sure how many charter drivers they have. I think there are 3. Okay. And yes, when they have a situation where they have, 3 from the middle school here, maybe 2 at the middle school and down 4 at Timberlane High School, they do call to other terminals. That's the good thing with First Student, is that they have other terminals to reach out to use their drivers. The Salem terminal actually is mostly all charter drivers, so they pull a lot from there.
Okay, all I'm trying to emphasize is just that the sports should not really be interfering with our regular transportation program.
Correct.
And I believe per the contract, we're not required to go through first student for our sports.
Yep.
So if it comes down to it and we need to go to another service provider for the sports, then
We can do that, yes.
we should be doing that because it shouldn't interfere, throw everybody else's
Yep.
schedule off. Okay.
Thank you.
Sandy?
Thank you. Thank you.
I know you've been very busy, and we wish you luck on that first day.
Mrs. Denola, you have a request for approval of a donation from the Hampstead PTSA.
Thank you. As you know, we all should move more, and part of the brain science about children learning is the ability for them to have more movement breaks, for them to have seating that allows them to wiggle a bit instead of being in these strict, confined furniture pieces that we put in our schools. And at a meeting in the springtime, I had a conversation with the PTSA about, teaching our teachers to give kids more movement breaks, for kids to be able to stand while they learn. They don't have to be sitting straight in a chair all the time. And there's many companies out there that have seating, that stand-up desks for children, which I was able to purchase some for this coming year. And for the 5th graders, I requested that they would be kind enough to supply a classroom of movable seating. It's kinesthetic, so it's different than what we're used to. It's not those yoga balls. They're stools, and they just move a little bit, keep the core engaged. And I spoke at length with Tom Gary, who outfitted almost a whole school with this type of furniture that allows students to move a bit while they learn, especially the younger ones, the 5th graders. And so they graciously offered to pay for one set of these to see how they go. And that was in the amount of $1,536.95. And I'm requesting your approval.
How many were in a set? You said one set.
24.
24. And they're all going to be used in one classroom?
We're going to start off with math in 5th grade and see how we do with that.
Okay.
There's a buzz of excitement about it.
Motion to accept the donation from the PTSA with gratitude.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Officer Mark Conway. He's going to be presenting an emergency response training plan to us, and I'm going to suggest that we go into non-public for that. We'll be going into non-public under RSA 91A:3, Roman numeral 2I, safety issues.
Make that motion?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Hsdsb?
Yes.
Mr. Cipriano?
Yes.
Ms. Parnell?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Mrs. Yusenko?
Yes. And we will be coming out cable because we have the rest of our meeting to finish. We're back. Thank you, everyone. We have come out of non-public, and no decisions were made. The next on the agenda is our strategic plan progress report, be given to us by Dr. Wilson.
Yes. In your packets, I gave you a progress update, and trying to do this every year so that you get some sense of what we've been doing to kind of further these goals. And as you know, we had, I believe, 4 goals. And under each goal, we had several different activities and sub-goals. But one of the goals was to strengthen our commitment to prepare students for transition across the grade levels, and for helping them to assume the responsibility of learning. So we kind of took that in 3 different parts, and one is we really focused on the transition. Everything in red are the things that we did last year to promote these goals. We did a lot of work with the transition, and I know Mrs. Denola and Mr. Collins worked with the parents of the 4th graders coming into 5th and the 8th graders going into 9th. And we did a survey, we talked with students. A new guidance counselor from 8th grade got involved with the process with Mr. Mayu taking over in 8th grade, so we got a fresh set of eyes for that process, which really helped a lot. So we got, I think we've done a good job of getting more input from parents about the transition. We will do this process again every fall, trying to follow up with how it went for the students. We are also looking at some personalized learning goals and how to use that more with students. We know with 21st century skills, it's all around trying to help each student kind of move and grow in their own capacity, with their own kind of pace. And we want them to be more invested with their own skill development. So we're going to be trying out some learning goals through the e-portfolios and through the advisory program at the middle school. We'll let you know how it goes. We're excited about trying some of that out. And I know in the elementary school, we're also looking to see if they, especially in the 3rd and the 4th grade, to have a little bit more voice and choice in some of the things that they get to do in the classroom. Because we know that leads to some of their taking responsibility. So that first goal, I think we've done some great movement towards having that succeed. The second goal is to refine programs and update facilities, create strategies that proactively address the educational risk-taking, the emotional well-being and safety that we were just talking about. We've used the Education for Future Climate Survey, which is really a survey that parents and kids tell us about what their experiences are like. We get that information and we're able to draw some conclusions of some areas that we might need to work on. We just did ours again in the spring. We will have that report for you probably at the end of September, a little bit more discerning about what that comparison of this year's was versus last year's survey. We think overall it was very positive. It wasn't quite a huge shift, but we had a very similar pattern than what we've had in the past. The safety committee has been committed to meeting, and I thank Mrs. Denola for leading that. And I know that, you know, having the school board members part of that has really helped in having a cohesive message. So that has been important for us to kind of move that forward. And as you know, those are some very great progress has been made from the board's perspective of giving us resources to be able to implement some of those Homeland Security recommendations. So I think we've made some great progress there. As we mentioned, the H team members have completed the Incident Command Module 1 with flying colors. A lot of that is all around our language, so that we have common language when we do get into an incident. and making sure that we have an understanding of their organizational structure, because it's very much organized into field teams and commander and chiefs and different organizational groups to do the actual responding. So that we've done a lot of work with. And as far as the emotional well-being, as you can see, there's a whole listing here of things that we did for parents to give them an opportunity to learn more about how to be more aware. For example, we did a presentation on strategies to help children with anxiety. We did the Screenagers video, and that's an awareness of video screen time for children. We did cyber safety forums. We had Judge Broderick here who presented Know the 5 Signs. We did the substance misuse forum and involved community forums as partners. We've done crisis prevention training with staff. So there's been some real intentional parent forums that we want to continue for next year. We also looked at what are some of the things that we can do to eliminate the portable classrooms. And as you know, the board has been instrumental in moving that forward. Last year, we had Bread Loaf update the cost for the estimates for 2016-17. We again updated the video, the Hampstead Students Are Worth It campaign, and did a lot of tour of facilities. And ultimately, again, we didn't have the 60% vote that we needed. This year, we're starting on a new campaign. The planning committee was established by the board to get ideas for a new conceptual plan. And we've hired Trident, who is the OPM, the owner's project manager, to represent the board in helping us develop what that plan is going to look like. You know, we made a conscious effort to really look at what the community wants to see. So that was our intent going forward, and the board has been kind of the players behind the scenes in a lot of these things. So they've been driving that change. Our third goal is to promote a positive school culture, and in doing that, one of the things that we were trying to identify is what are those skills that we need to be intentional about teaching. The Assistant Superintendent's Ventures Advisory Committee identified several of those skills: flexibility, adaptability, the 4 C's, which are the communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity, perseverance, information literacy, being a self-starter, and logical thinking. A lot of these skills we're trying to embed through our instruction, and those skills are also being integrated into different curriculum areas, and one of the big examples are all the STEAM activities that we've done. The Family STEAM Nights, thanks to Heather Mayu, making sure that we ask each grade level to develop STEAM activities so that teachers are collaborating. The UNH STEAM course that we offered through a partnership with UNH was extremely successful with about, I think, 14 to 16 teachers. We're going to do it again this fall because it was asked for by popular demand. We continue to support the robotics, the hydroponics, some of the things that the middle school is working on. So those are some examples of trying to involve 21st century skills and processes. And then one of the things, again, I just mentioned here is that we are trying to promote that positive school climate and culture, which is why we use that Education for Future survey. We've also done many Hawks assemblies, which are for parents, to give us input, to have conversations about some topics that we might need more feedback on. Husky forums, we've had a couple. One was canceled because of snow, and so we're going to do a little bit better in terms of offering some of those to parents. And we've had, again, that district safety focus. And then the last one is enhancing public communication to ensure that stakeholders are informed of all the issues. We've improved our website, expanded the use of School Messenger. We've done a lot more emails and voice messages to parents. We've done 29 press releases that were written this year, which was a new push for us to do that. We added a YouTube channel for the schools. There's a monthly newsletter at each school, and trying to make sure that we use some of the, I guess, the state-of-the-art technology like the mobile app and the use of Google Classroom. As far as us focusing at some of the internal communication, the things that we focused on is making sure that our faculty meetings were meaningful, which meant we needed to change some of the content. It wasn't so much associated with the nuts and bolts. It was more about big thinking or information that we needed to do training. The nuts and bolts came in different forms of communication, handouts or at grade level meetings. But some of the training and professional development happened at faculty meetings. So we made that shift. The H team, we still hold bi-monthly meetings with the SAU staff. We used Google sharing as a way to share agendas and to share documents, which I think helped us be more efficient in the work that we were doing. And finally got, I'd say 95% of the curriculum posted online. So we've been working hard, and if there's anything else that you have questions about, we will continue to focus our efforts at moving the strategic plan forward as we have. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions? Thank you. I think that was a very comprehensive report on what's been going on, and it shows that we are meeting the goals.
Yeah, we keep them front and center. The administrative team gets tired of listening to me because I put it on all of my meetings. How are we doing? But next year, maybe I'll do next year's in blue. You can see how it builds on each other.
Thank you very much for that.
You're very welcome. Yep.
Next, we have Director of Curriculum, Doris Bucco. Going to give us a little, tell us what happened at the competency-based learning workshop.
To give you some background information as to why we attended this three-day summer institute, the state of New Hampshire has had minimum standards in place since 2005 for high schools to have competencies. And now there are new minimum standards that require K through 8 curriculum competency standards, as well as standards around assessment, competency-based assessments. And let me just define for you what is a competency and what is a performance assessment. A competency is a student's ability to transfer content and skills in and across content areas, and a performance assessment would measure the student's ability to do that transfer of content and skills. And an example of a competency for 5th and 6th grade English language arts opinion and argument writing would be students will produce clear, coherent, and effective opinion argument writing for a range of text types, purposes, and audiences. So a performance assessment would be that in a social studies or a science project, a student would write a piece demonstrating that he or she could logically connect reasons, facts, do analyses, provide resources, and provide a conclusion that addresses why others may not agree with that particular student. So that students taking what they learned in a language arts class and then transferring, applying that knowledge in a science or social studies or a unified arts class. So to deepen, well, let me refresh what we did, review with you what we did this past year. We spent a lot of time at our curriculum committee meetings, early release days, professional development days, giving curriculum committees and unified arts teachers time to develop competencies. So we have drafts in place. And our goal for this coming year is to develop performance assessments to measure students' ability to achieve those competencies. So to deepen our knowledge of what is competency-based learning, 14 central school and middle school staff members, which included administrators, directors, grade level teachers, and special education teachers, went to a 3-day summer institute in Nashua. and it was titled Competency-Based Learning Design Studio Conference. And we used our Title II funds to fund our participation in that conference. And this studio was designed for educational teams throughout the country, such as Iowa, there was a group there from Iowa, who are either planning or beginning the implementation phases of competency-based learning within their districts. So we participated in numerous sessions presented by competency-based education specialists such as Rose Colby. She's a Hampstead summer resident, and she has done professional development work for us in the past. And there were also teachers and administrators from other competency-based learning districts that presented, such as Sanborn, Rochester, Sauhegan, Amherst, and Mount Vernon. And one of the presenters is also a town resident, Deb Bamforth. She just retired as principal of the Bakey School. And Rose and Deb are very willing to assist us in our journey in developing competencies and performance tasks. So we all divided into different groups and attended 3 days worth of sessions that talked about, really went into depth about competency-based learning models, developing high-quality performance assessments, how do we support students who are not meeting our competencies, what are the connections between project-based learning and competency-based learning. A lot of the sessions shared best practices and lessons that these districts have learned in developing a competency-based learning model. And we also had team time every day.
Yes, we did.
A big chunk of team time that we used to process what we learned throughout that day and really began dialoguing about what is our vision for competency-based learning in Hampstead. And our dialogue included why we would like our district to move towards a competency-based system, such as, jobs of the future, as we talked about in the past, are based around collaboration, creativity, anytime, anywhere learning, global connections, technology, personal pathways. And in education, we need to focus more on personalized student learning so that each child is learning at his or her individual pace and demonstrates competence of skills and knowledge. We also used our team time to identify the principles of a competency-based system that we learned about in the various sessions, such as student learning must be rigorous, relevant, meaningful, connected to real-world experiences. Performance should be observable, measurable, transferable. And if a student isn't demonstrating proficiency of a competency, what support are we going to give that child? That is, support that's flexible, tailored to that child, so that child can master that competency. We also used team time to identify what we're already doing within our district that would be elements of a competency-based system, such as we have created our drafts of our competencies, and we are moving towards developing performance assessments. Teachers daily post the learning targets for their lessons in their classrooms. We have developed rubrics for assessment of learning, and we have some common rubrics, such as our writing common rubric at the middle school. We have created STEAM, interdisciplinary lessons and performance assessments. We have an intervention system in place for students who may not be making progress towards achievement of our competencies, and we have that professional learning communities structure in place that are at various grade levels to give teachers time to do the work. So to conclude our time at the design studio, our group of 14 people identified steps for potentially moving towards this competency-based system, and our 14 attendees willingly agreed to continue working as a group, and we are going to add Sarah Weiscarver to our committee. Sarah is our New Ventures teacher at Central School. She's from the Sanborn School District, and she was very involved in developing competencies and performance assessments within her district, and she's going to be a wonderful resource for us. And she has presented nationally on competency-based learning, so I'm looking forward to her working with us. And some of the next steps that we are looking at include adapting our professional learning communities and schedules for teachers so that they have time to work together to view, evaluate student work, create these assessments, do some reflection on our competencies and performance assessments. As I mentioned, this year we're going to be working on performance assessments. We'd like to develop more opportunities for students to have personalized learning and continually communicate to the board, to families, and to our community about the work that we're doing, why we're doing it, and, getting input when and where needed. So tomorrow I have a meeting all morning with our district curriculum leaders, and we're going to be talking about the process for developing performance assessments and talk about the time that they are going to need during their curriculum meetings, professional development days, early release days to work on this task. Dr. Wilson, on Thursday, when we have our district meeting, we'll be addressing competency-based learning with staff, and we also talked about potentially sending another group to this institute next summer because we found it to be so valuable, very valuable. So that's my summary of our attendance at this institute. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question. I remember when I got on the board, and it was 3 years ago now, one of the first things I mentioned was competency-based learning. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm glad that we're moving in that direction. My question to you, though, is at what point or what timeline are we looking at that it would actually be implemented in Hampstead?
I would say it would be fall 2000, this is 17, 19. No, 18. We're in 17. Yes, because this coming year, we're developing our performance assessment. So it's going to be the following fall that we're going to actually implement competencies in our performance assessments. Teachers are beginning to address some of the competencies now, and we know we'll have to do some tweaking as we use them, and likewise, once we use these performance assessments, we'll have to do some tweaking after we evaluate them and all. But very soon, yes, we're going to finish this task. So this is fall of 17, so it'll be fall of 18.
So next year? Mm-hmm. Next year we
Next school year. Yeah.
Next school year we can hope to see some of these practices in place in the classroom.
And one of the steps in this whole competency-based learning model is also looking at our grading practices. Our report. How do we report to parents? How do we report to students how they've mastered these competencies? And if and when we make changes to our report card system, there's going to be we'll have a lot of conversations with parents about what we want these report cards to look like.
Report card and standardized testing. By shifting over to this, is that going to eliminate or reduce the amount of standardized testing that we have in place now? Because I've heard that that's happened in other district schools that have this, have been able to eliminate a standardized test.
And those are the PACE districts?
Correct.
Yes, that's a component of the PACE district. At the moment, we are not looking towards applying to become part of that PACE system. But at our next meeting, school board meeting, I will share with you our assessment calendar and give you an update of what the state is doing as far as state assessments.
Not to put you on the spot, because I don't know if it's just for you, but why are we not looking as a district to move to the PACE model?
Because we haven't had the conversations to do that yet, and I think we want to make sure that what we have in place is solid. So the competencies and the assessments are the things that we're starting. You can start anywhere with a competency-based, moving to a competency-based system. We chose to do the competencies and the assessment and really have that solidified, because that's the instructional piece. There is, as you look at anything to do, you can have a full-blown competency-based system and very little traditional education model behind it. You can also have elements that you bring into a traditional model, which is what we have here in Hampstead. We have a very specific grade level progression. And so we're bringing in what we feel is going to help us with those 21st century skills, with the teacher collaboration, to do some of the things that we need to do for the minimum standards. As we go through this process, we're going to keep apprised of how it's working, keep you apprised of it, but it's not saying, you know, in 2025, we're going to be competency-based. We're not there yet until we can see I think, the value in what it is for Hampstead. So that's why this is kind of like our baby step into the system. We also know that legislation has been passed that's changing our standardized testing. And there will be once in elementary school, once in middle school, and once in high school. We haven't gotten any kind of direction from or guidance from the Department of Ed yet, because this is so brand new. But that's what's supposed to be in place this year. So we're waiting. That will reduce some of that standardized testing. But we must have some type of alternative in our system. We have to identify what our alternative is in those grades that are not tested by the state. And our process has always been the iReady, using the iReady assessment. We're already doing it for instruction. That's what we can use as our measure, and the state will accept that. So we're going to get there. I think we have to have some foundational conversations with the board too, because some of this is a mind shift, as Dillard was talking about earlier.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Doris?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Board comments and correspondence. So where's everybody been in the week? Who have you seen? What have you done?
I went to the SAU today, and I looked at all of our spending, and everything's as it should be. And I have been involved with the committee, as you know, the hiring committee for the facilities director. So spent time with that. And other than that, it's just been trying to get ready to be ready for back to school with kids.
Yeah. Jim?
Well said.
Jason?
Nope, nothing to add.
Any legislative updates? Anything happening?
No.
No?
There was something today. There was a committee meeting today. I think it was the state education committee. They were discussing SB 193 and HR 647, which are both of the
Vouchers.
bills.
Yeah.
One from the House, one from the Senate, that I believe both of them had been tabled. But for whatever reason, there was some kind of a court decision that has now reopened discussion on that. So we definitely need to be keeping an eye on that, as that may have a detrimental effect on public education money.
Yep.
I've been involved with the construction committee, which included a meeting on a lot of our staff and teachers and administrators at Central School. I also had an email and a phone call from a parent with some questions that I spoke with her about.
Okay. Same thing, been involved with interviews for the facilities director position, and also committees for the renovations and project committee. And also to that, I would just like to again let everyone know that we are having an public forum on September 6th, 7 o'clock in the Central School cafeteria. I'm inviting everyone in the public to come. It's your opportunity to share your ideas and meet our architect, Dennis Myers, our owner's project manager, Gino Baroni of Trident, meet school board members, school administrators, teachers, staff, and other school personnel, and most of all, your neighbors, your friends, and other concerned community members. It's going to be an opportunity to have input. Let the architects, let people hear, let your neighbors hear what you would like to see in the conceptual design for a new school building, what some of your ideas and your thoughts are. So that should be a very informative night, and we're hoping to get a good crowd. Okay, thank you. And that's all I have. So we can move on to the consent agenda, if you're ready, Dr. Wilson.
I am. Under Personnel Report, we have one retirement, which I think is in your packet. And at this time, I would like to recognize and say, with regret, that this is for Jim Pimentel, who's been with the district for 21 years. And he certainly has been a pillar here for us in the district. But as he said, he's ready to retire. So that's under personnel. Under my report, I did speak with Pinkerton. The preliminary enrollments were not ready for today, but she's going to get back to me. I can email those out to you. And as you know, for Pinkerton, they change daily, especially this week right up to the beginning of school. But I'll get you that information soon. We attended a 2-day law conference last week. All of the administrative staff, we again are really looking at professional development for our leaders. And this was put on by Drummond and Whitsom. It was the first time they've ever done it. It was really a Principals Institute, but I found it very informative and helpful. And for those 2 days, we listened to all different types of topics around implementing in a very, I think, common sense way, some of the laws that we have every day. Student discipline, employee discrimination or harassment, student harassment. We had information around HR and labor laws, which we don't always think about, but I know Nancy Lewis-Sell thinks about those all the time. Teacher evaluations, teacher negotiations, special education, and all the laws that are around that. So it was actually very informative, and I think we have a better understanding of some of the things that we need to be looking out for moving forward. We facilitated a 2-day retreat for administrators early in August. Again, in that particular time, we do a lot of planning and a lot of work of synthesizing. We talked about how to support more teacher collaboration time and really rejuvenating those PLC times, because we've lost a little bit of the focus. And we want to bring it back to using that time really productively around what do students need. So we're going to talk with staff about really looking at the PLC time as what it was intended for. We reviewed our goals. We reviewed the school district, the board goals. We looked at our action plans. We reviewed the climate survey information, and that will be presented at another board meeting. We revisited the strategic plan, again, to kind of keep it going forward. We planned some professional development, and that helped Doris create her schedule. And so we'll have more information about how that all comes into play in terms of goals, probably in the end of September. Again, I've already talked about the incident command, and there have been some significant legislative summaries that have been coming through, and there's quite a few that are going to involve policy, so I will bring those forward through the policy committee. But one of the largest impact to us is that HB 166, which changes the assessment schedule that I just spoke about. So we'll see what connection comes home with the Department of Ed in terms of guidance. But there are also some very unique things that were passed this year, and I can go through it at another time with you if you'd like, because some are significant in terms of our practices. But we're well aware of them, and I can send you some of this information that the School Boards Association sent out. If you haven't seen it, I will share it with you. Maybe some of you have, but I will make sure that you get a copy of this as well. And that's it. I was going to talk about the public forum, but you've already done that, so we're good. And the manifests, have they gone through?
I have it right here. And I would just like to say, on behalf of the board, a thank you to Jim Pimentel for 21 years of service to this district, and that we accept his resignation retirement with regret, and we wish him well in the years ahead. Okay, need a motion to accept the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much. Any other business or old business? No?
Now, could I have?
Seeing none, I'd like to, a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
All in favor? Thank you. We are adjourned at 8:55.
Thank you. PIM